Hello and welcome to episode 26 of the Watson Weekend, your weekly dose of e-commerce entertainment. I am your host, Rick Watson, and I'm here with my co-host.
Hi, it's Jessica Liseski. Happy weekend, everybody. And it really kicks off right here as it does every week, right, Rick?
We're always kicking off the weekend, and this, I think, is our first holiday weekend,
That's right. Yeah,
Memorial Day weekend. So, one of many. We'll have a few holidays coming up here. You were mentioning that May is a crazy month for you.
that's right. Yeah. If you're not familiar, May-cember is essentially December's cousin, where it's
Huh,
crazy for different reasons, but essentially your schedule and your calendar is not your own. It has become your children's calendar, and you are doing field days and volunteering at school and end of year parties, and the list goes on. And basically, if you have a summer birthday, it's also great to make that birthday party in May. So,
right.
the clock is ticking, Rick, and you have a lot to look forward to. I'm going to pass on my little handbook for you when
I
Florence gets
do. Yeah, I'm
engaged.
looking forward to that handbook. This morning, my daughter started pushing, uh, crawling a little bit. Her technique is
Oh,
to hold her arms and then push on her face. So that maybe is not the most
nice.
optimized technique, but that's the starting point.
No, you know what? A little rug burn will just
Right.
clear that right up.
Exactly. So I don't know if you know, we have some interesting facts about today that
Yeah,
I
lay it
was
on that.
prepared to run down. One is, well, it's not the Jamaican bobsled team, but in 1932, the USA has entered the two-man bobsled competition for the first time.
All right.
That's our first
Pretty
one. And
momentous.
then,
Yeah.
yeah, look, we're kids of the 80s here, and so you'll always
Yes,
see
we
those
are.
references. In 1985, Madonna's album Like a Virgin goes number one for 3 weeks.
Yes, and she's still kicking.
She's still kicking. Remember when Madonna was risque?
Yes, I do. I do. She's kind of like Little House on the Prairie now, right?
I
So,
right. Yes, there's the
in
least
comparison.
exactly. No, it's crazy.
All right. So we want to jump into some headlines.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I think our first one up is Macy's, as in a look into the future or not in the future. Fellow analyst Neil Saunders from Global Data loves to cover or really destroy Macy's on Twitter when any chance he gets. Unfortunately, all the stores that he used to walk into are now basically closing. They just recently had an earnings call where they said they like, okay, we're going to cover, we have 500 stores, something like that, Macy's stores. We're going to split them into the ones that are staying around and the 150 that are staying. And then of the 350 that are staying around, we're going to show you the top 50. But even within them, the, I don't know, newsflash, the performance is flat.
Oh,
Well,
is that really a shock though? Um, are we really surprised? I think what stood out to me too in this story was there was a lot of like fanfare and celebration as this plan was rolled out. And there was a quote that said, the advantage that we have is this group has a clearer vision and a stronger plan. And this is something that was absent under previous leadership. And we see a good start to putting Macy's on the right track. Does that pass the sniff test for you as far as an assessment?
It does not. I'm not sniffing anything here. Unfortunately, the only thing that passes a sniff test is it's like a very typical corporate initiative. The first thing you do when you come in is you blame the last administration. So they've checked that off the list.
Yeah.
The next thing that they're going to do is implement a new 3-year strategy, and then they're gonna prepare 3 envelopes. I think that's how that joke goes. So
Yeah, that's right. My 3-point plan. So great. Yeah. Speaking of 3-point plans, we actually have another story here that I think you'll find interesting. So, some retailers have Prime Day that we all know and love. Some others have Way Day. eBay now has Recommerce Day,
huh?
and Recommerce Day
What's
is really
Recommerce
kind of
Day,
taking
Jess?
back. Yeah, so Recommerce is just really a celebration of the fact that secondhand is where it's at. And so if you're in this resale marketplace, as eBay is and has been for quite some time, they've got to have their stake in the ground, which is they feel like they own this re-commerce landscape, as they should. So they're partnering with Alicia Silverstone. She's donating used items from her closet, which is really going to, I think, fuel the spirit behind, hey, what is old is new again, and it can be yours for the bargain price of some, $1,000
Yeah.
charity auction. So here's I think what I'm curious about. Over the time that eBay's been around, they've lost share to RealReal, Poshmark, ThredUp, StockX, Goat. I think the list could go on
List
and
keeps going.
on. The list keeps going. So is this enough to really salvage and bring back into eBay?
Yeah, look, it's not enough, it's not even enough. Going back
Not
to
even
our
enough.
Rhino Reynolds here. But
Her little throwback.
eBay's um, strategy seems to be to sort of burrow down on its core, which, look, everything else eBay tried in the last 15 years has not worked out so well. So maybe this is just the last idea in the bucket. So Recommerce Day is not something I see resonating with consumers, sadly.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. So when Prime Day happens, you'll have like CNN and lots of different sites because they get paid big affiliate dollars, cover the best deals you can get in Prime Day or the best deals you can get in Wayfair. There was no
Yeah.
best deals of Recommerce Day. It was kind of a non-event. So you talk about playbook. eBay's got one more for you. So
Oh
they are
yeah.
teaming up with their friends at Rakuten
Huh.
to bring basically used goods from Japan
Hmm.
onto ebay.com. And there's kind of two theories behind this. One, you can take advantage of the yen that's trading at basically a 34-year low. And the second is Japanese consumers actually take better care of their luxury goods. And so
Hmm.
what's pre-loved and the definition of pre-loved in Japan might actually be really, really good in the US version. And so they feel like they're going to get some boost in better goods. Again, a question for me is inventory really, or lack of inventory, really the problem on eBay, or is it just the relevancy with shoppers?
Yeah, I mean, look, it seems like the eBay strategy is to make gray market goods mainstream. I'm not sure how the brands feel about that. Now their stuff is going to be in other markets, such that maybe it will cut down people buying from them. Usually, you don't. uh, If you're a luxury brand, you usually would rather have your stuff burned than sold in another market, just because of conflict and reduction of
100%.
sales and all those things. So eBay apparently didn't get that memo. So that's maybe a good starting point here. Speaking of management teams that have not gotten the
Mm.
memo, Target is next up
Hmm.
in our moves. They are cutting the prices of 5,000 items, and they announced this amazing announcement prior to the earnings call. Price reductions. Is that a strategy, Jess?
It's a strategy, I guess, if you're just looking for a quick shot in the arm and some kind of boost and a bit of, hey, we need a Hail Mary here. I think what is super interesting is the more I shop Target, the more I find that Target and Walmart are trying to get closer and closer together.
Mm,
And then in that war, in that battle, we know Walmart's the clear winner. I think this is certainly a way to try to get some jolt of consumer attention, but the reality is it's also not enough.
yeah, I was writing on LinkedIn about this week. Target management team seems to have lost the plot. Whereas in the last, what I can tell is that, like, if the world is not in an inflection point, and if it's like steady, if the situation is steady, Walmart's management team seems to know what to do, which is mostly
Yep.
ship more stuff from stores and add more own brands. That's the Target formula.
Yep.
But if
Yep.
we're in like this flux transition time, like pandemic, post bullwhip, Target management team just is so slow, and they're just like reaching for levers. And hold on, I think our producer put together a quick video
Oh,
inside the control room of Target earnings.
oh, let's see.
Anyway, I mean, a good
That
Simpsons episode always seems to clarify the situation here on the weekend.
that's right. Can you tell we are slightly fans? So always good source of content. I think you got one more story to bring this home, right, Rick?
Yeah, if you we haven't talked about Shein yet, but we have Temu on our bingo card where the owner Pinduoduo has reported a net profit of over 246% year over year, which is sadly for other retailers enough. I'm sure it's going to keep propelling them maybe into more Super Bowl ads in upcoming years.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and this is kind of at the same time where there's been some reports they've pulled back slightly in marketing, specifically in the US, but that has not changed the trajectory of what they own. And, just as a reminder, in that Ernst Analytics report, they've basically taken 17% of, or nearly 17% of the discount store share. So it's not only that they're knocking on the U.S., they're also really breaking major ground in China as well. So are we going to be saying Ali who at some point?
Well, we kind of are. It seems like Alibaba is doubling down on logistics again, which makes sense. But Temu, look, at the end of the day, their depends on advertising, and if they can keep advertising, they'll keep growing. As soon as that stops for half a second, they are totally dead.
Yes, totally did. That and trust. Remember, we always also talk about trust being one of the
Yes,
key places. So I keep buying, what I think is cheap refrigerators, and I get a pamphlet in the mail instead of how to operate a refrigerator.
I
Probably
love
not
it.
going to keep buying.
I
Yeah.
love it. You will
All
not keep
right.
buying.
No, crash and burn. So we have got a really exciting guest, and I know Rick, you are pumped to introduce our guest that's going to come on the show today.
I am, and we're talking about the founder and CEO of VTEX, and he's also a teacher at in Cambridge for EICOM. Mariano Gomide de Faria, he's had over 2 decades of experience in e-commerce and digital commerce, co-founding VTEX in 2000. Over that time, they've helped over 2,600 retailers, distributors, manufacturers globally in their digital transformation. Obviously, the company is super powerful in Latin America, in Brazil in particular, but they count manufacturers all around the world as customers. I'm most also interested in the fact that he's a teacher and lecturer at Cambridge University, which is super exciting. He definitely has its own unique flair and style, and happy to have Mariano and great friend of the show on the program.
Hey, Ricky. Hey, Jess. Pleasure to be with you.
So excited to be with you. Thank you for just also dedicating your time and coming on. There's a lot of exciting things I know we want to dive into. First and foremost, I think we wanted to give people a bit of an introduction to VTEX and what you guys stand for and how you got started, like what inspired you to really even start launch the platform. So, do you mind giving us a synopsis there?
No, it's okay. So, just what is VTEX, right? VTEX is the Shopify for grown-ups. That's a simple way to put it. We are a SaaS digital commerce platform allowing companies like Samsung, Whirlpool, Chanel, Adidas, and 2.4 thousand of them all over the world to operate their e-commerce. We are in 43 countries right now. I'm based here in Scarsdale, New York, and we started this journey 24 years ago. I'm a mechanic engineering. I started in a bank, and I left the bank to be rich. I want to be rich.
Yeah,
I want to just to be
it doesn't
entrepreneur.
hurt.
Doesn't hurt, and that's the most like after 20 years, I got the guts to say I want to be rich. After that, I say no, I want to this purpose. No. Back there, I just wanted to be the money to pay whatever I need to do. That's my hobby is to be boating and spearfishing and say I need the money to pay for that. Actually, I was a scuba diving instructor before, and I say that will not pay the level of
It's not going to pay the
hobby.
bills.
Right.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was very happy, and but say I wanted more. So I created a company with Geraldo, my business partner. And we struggled for 10 years with the company, but after 10 years we got Walmart as our big client, and that's where the world started to know like who are the Brazilians doing the Walmart e-commerce platform emerging markets. And then suddenly we came from 2010 to 2024, from one country to 43 countries, from five clients to 2.6 thousand clients in those 43 countries, and running the biggest organizations in the world. So we are appointed by IDC as the leader, by Gartner, the number one unified commerce digital commerce platform. So pretty happy what we built. We are a public company in New York Stock Exchange, and keep building. That's who we are.
That seems like a great start to the story. I think one of the things that you're being very modest about is sort of the culture of the company. It seems like a company culture unlike any other. We have look, every company has a conference. You know, it's almost like you guys have your own Mardi Gras uh, down in here relative to e-commerce. I'd love you to say a few words, and we're gonna actually we have a video, kind of a highlight reel of a U.S. delegation you hosted down there last year.
So you're talking about VTEX Day, probably.
Yeah.
VTEX Day is
Yeah.
our biggest event. People in the US and Europe, when you talk about corporate events, we're talking about the 1,000, 2,000 in a boring room, like slides. VTEX Day started 14 years ago. Uh, and we reach a point last edition, we reach a 20,000 people a day, so it's a kind
Wow.
of an NRF size event.
Yeah.
It's a 1 million square feet foot kind of event expo. So 250 sponsors, more than 280 speakers. So it's pretty impressive. What I'm really proud of my team, what they did, and that is also the way we can create the avenue for our talents. We put our employees, we invite them to co-produce the events. So
Mm,
300 VTEXers are the ones behind the event, managing the parking lot, managing the entrance, managing every single aspect of it. So it's I'm pretty proud. Like when you see that energy there, people are coming all over the world to see that and say
yeah.
that's a different company. So yeah,
Yeah.
pretty proud. And we had
Let's
like a very big names there. I can recall some of them, like the president of United States, Barack Obama, came in person to the event. It was
Wow.
it was the biggest corporate event he ever attend. It's a 10,000 attendees in the room that he spoke. So was incredible. Was
wow.
really amazing.
That's exciting. I would love to I think this is a good break time to show a couple of highlights of the event, so we'll cue that up now. Wow. I
That's
mean,
amazing.
this the huge room with all the lights.
Yes.
That's the shot that really
That's
blows
like a
me
Taylor
away.
Swift concert. I mean,
Yeah,
right?
I would like to invite everybody that is probably listening your show. Come, and you're gonna enjoy probably. Oh, one thing about VTEX Day, we don't allow sponsors to be in the stage. That's
Mm,
the number one rule that we
mm,
will never give up. So it's only retailers and brand manufacturers sharing content to retailers and brand manufacturers, and that's why people come. I feel that all the other events in the world, you just have two commercial pitch, and that's not good.
Yeah.
People are
yeah.
not like, okay, come on, another slide and another slide. So in VTEX Day, the sponsors are forbidden to talk in the stage, and that's how the event is recognized. It's a specialists, 280 of them from many companies all over the world sharing the problems, the experiences, the cases, and that's what makes a VTEX Day unique.
Yeah,
That's
I
so
think that's
great.
so interesting. Yeah, and like what kind of it's a good segue to some of the things that we were interested in talking with you about. You're in all of these different countries. You bring all these different types of retailers, brands together. I have a two-part question for you. What are some of the things that you find are similar, and what are some of the differences in terms of the experiences of in brands and retailers, whether it's countries? I don't know if it's a country culture differences. What are some of those things that you're seeing as you bring all these different people together?
So let's see these in the perspective of the high interest rate that we are, and probably we will be for some years ahead.
Hmm.
These challenge of financing retail in a
Mm,
high interest rate, it is
Hmm.
affecting the world.
right.
Yeah.
And this is something for the US companies to just watch out, because the world is being financed, some countries, under a zero interest rate kind of cost,
Hmm.
like the
Hmm.
Chinese retail companies like Tamu,
Uh-huh.
that's
Hmm.
actually literally invading, that's the right term, invading United States. And if you compare the financing kind of level of the United States is at 10% today, so you cannot compete with this kind of a difference on financing the
Yeah.
world. So the bottleneck, the bottom of the PNL, is the bottleneck for all the retailers in the world. That's what we are seeing, and we are helping our customers to find 3, 5, even 10% of profitability, and that will
Mm.
not come with organic way. It's not predictable to find 10% profitability in retail or
Wow.
brand manufacturer.
I mean,
Yeah.
Mariano, you're speaking my love language here. I mean, I've been watching all of the retailers' earnings as we talk about profitability, and in particular, Walmart, like one of your customers in Latin America and other places, Walmart, their earnings, what they're trying to do, and we're talking about like entering the age of efficiency. How can we be more efficient with our cash? And so, if we're going to invest in new initiatives, let's invest in higher margin initiatives, such that the typical Walmart business, and pick any year on the map, it's about 3% net operating margin. Now, a third of all their profit dollars are driven by activities that are at least 10 to 12% profit margin. Things like advertising, marketplace, fulfillment, data services. Retailers can't just be retailers anymore, can they?
Yeah, you're definitely right, Ricky. When you see the average of the SAP 500 retail
Yep.
profitability, we're talking about 4.5, 4.4. Uh, that's too low. That's
Mhm.
average.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
anything that you do wrong 1 year, you
Yeah.
compromise 5 years. And in this
Mm.
moment, a lot of the last 20 years, a lot of money was spent in equity funding way. What I
Mm.
mean about it, you just change equity through R&D and hope that that would create value for the future,
Mm.
Sure.
and that wave actually didn't pay off. So you can see right now all the retailers, the big ones, highly invested with maybe hundreds of millions on software that already dead, and they
Give us an
didn't.
example of one that invested a lot and it just didn't pay off for them.
For example, I can say, in my perspective, and it's a personal opinion, Primark. They spend casino. Many retailers all over the world, they create their own software IT companies.
Right.
Yep.
The problem with that is a company that have only one client.
Right.
It's a
Right.
Yeah.
monopoly.
You
You
can't
can't scale it.
amortize
You
that
can't scale it.
over.
To bill with that. So it's interesting because people forget about it, that innovate is easy. To keep a lean level of
Maintenance.
maintenance for the innovation, that's the hard part. So
Hmm.
innovate is pretty easy. You just exchange capex into IT people, and IT people will bring innovation, and then suddenly you need to pay for that bill. I believe accountants will need to change the way they see innovation through R&D, because today IFRS or US GAAP allow companies to put innovation on 5 to 8 years. But
Right.
everybody knows that, everybody with a technical background knows that if you put money in one software 1 year, it's the same cost that you're going to have in the next year and the next year and the next year. So this is not capex, this is opex. and that's the
Yeah.
change the retailers needs to do on their balance sheet. They
Mm,
need to face the fact that IT is too expensive, and they need
right.
to choose their bets. So this is the,
Yeah.
you ask
I
me
think,
like the
yeah.
common mistakes or the common ground on the world on retail. That's the common ground. They need to be efficient.
Yeah, I think efficiency is a good bet for it. A lot of retailers, unfortunately, when they looked around like 2010, 2011, they didn't see a platform that fit their needs. And so they started building. And once you start building, it's like Pringles. Like once you start, you can't stop. So
Yeah.
then they're like, oh, maybe we should build our own personalization solution. Maybe we should build our own marketplace. Maybe we should
We're
build
so
our own.
unique.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah,
unique needs.
I can bring
Yeah.
one case that's public. OBI is the biggest DIY in Germany. Okay, the last seven
Yeah.
years they spent millions creating their own platform, and they replatform, and they just understood that to operate they are around $9.5 billion operation, and guess how many people on IT to run the entire company? That's for me was a wow.
how
400,
many?
400,
Wow.
400. And now they are in a level of profitability and pursuing efficiency that was not even imagined before. But they need to do a lot of trade-offs in their minds as a builders to be testers.
Yeah.
So the companies, the retailers that transform themselves from builders to testers will be the ones thriving the world. And with that, I mean also the expansionism on territories
Mm,
to become global, to explore the assets they do have by being in America is the land to create brands. Everybody in the
mm,
world admire America. And
mm,
so the brands that are created here are not exploring their own assets
mm.
all over the world. And that's where we see a huge opportunity to just allow US companies to seamless to conquer the world through digital commerce, through digital activities.
Yeah. And you mentioned that brands need to become global. And if you look at, there's a few different ways that happens now. I mean, they could go cross border. That's usually the starting point. Is like, is there demand? Let's fulfill that demand cross border because we don't have inventory in these new places yet. That's usually somewhat of step
Yep.
one. And then you can start establishing entities. But then some people, instead of establishing entities, they license out their brand to other operators in different parts of the world. Does that dilute the brand? I know it's been very popular in the past, but does it help or hurt the brand going forward?
Yeah, let me bring one example. Let's say a well-known fight between Adidas and Nike. Like it's a Netflix series that we can follow
Right.
in our lifetime. Um, and I believe Nike is doing better than Adidas. The number shows that, and why? Nike was bold enough to
Yeah.
renounce the distribution model they had before with franchisees and licensees, and they are operating themselves. Nike understood after the success of Apple, that's a global brand. Um, Nike understood that if you don't own the experience,
Mm,
actually you don't own the brand. You can make money with your asset,
mm,
that's a logo, but you don't own the brand. And brand is not anymore made on the acquisition part of the business. Brand, it is in the customer service part of the business. So if you don't own the experience, you don't own the ability to create brand. So Nike did a big bet on that. I can recall, for example, other example in US, Lusotica, they are buying back the licenses of their franchises to
mm,
operate themselves the stores.
mm.
So it's a big movement of a concentration to allow the brands to own the experience. And all over, you can see that companies going global online, companies changing the franchising model. For example, like Alo is an amazing brand, and
Right.
they license the physical stores, but the online is an international kind of rights
Hmm.
from Alo.
Right.
So brands are waking up for the opportunity they do have to own the experience and the brand.
Do you, from what you see too, with we talked about Temu, we've talked about Shein on the show. There's lots of brands. Is there space for more brands, or do you see more consolidation happening in the future?
So, yes, we were in the denial phase. When China started to trade and sell cheap toys to US, everybody said, no, that's only cheap toys. And suddenly they started to build iPhones. And suddenly, a vice president of VTEX here in New York, they bought from Apple.com and received a Shanghai delivery. So Apple is delivering to the US from a Shanghai fulfillment facility. That's the picture of what means a brand. Doesn't matter where you do have sourcing or SKUs in the world,
Yeah,
you should have one global availability zone, and you're gonna serve the world where you do have the products. And you
Mm.
can say then the other excuse was, oh, but it's like 40 days delivery cost. Come on,
That's
if you
changed.
it changed. You
Yeah.
yeah,
can order today from China in 7 days. Is in your home if you are in Oshkosh, in the middle of the United States. So there is no excuse anymore to denial the competitiveness of the Chinese trade power,
yeah,
and we should face it. It is a recreation of the Cold War,
Mm.
and we need to face that. And United States has the chance to control the narrative on that for Europe, Latin America, the Western world. So it's going to be very fun years ahead of us. It's not only a company against company anymore. It's
yeah.
government plus companies against government plus companies. So it's like WeChat in China against WhatsApp in US. It's TikTok here, there. So it's going to be interesting to see how the world will be there. One thing is for sure, if you are not lean as a brand and a retailer, and
Mm.
if you don't have a global presence, you will not be able to arbitrate the assets under management that you do have. So the brands needs to review their org charts. The org
Yeah.
charts are predictable, and it's not going to be predictability that will create this future. So uh, the lean ones, the ones with less people in the room, more risky decisions, will be the ones that we're gonna see thriving in a few years.
Yeah. And we talked about efficiency. I think that goes in a few different directions. Building custom software is not obviously going to drive efficiency. Um, and if you're going global, you have to have an approach, right? And it seems like the world is divided into two camps right now, kind of this custom software camp and the SaaS camp. And the software as a service companies all have different business models. And I think if you go to a place like Europe versus North America, everything operates the same way, particularly in the United States. You know, the trade rules, it, the way you acquire consumers, etc. But in Europe, that's not the case. The consumers are looking for different things. There's different competitors. There's different distribution. There's different marketing. Can you talk about like the complexity that a brand has, and as they think about like, do I need to build something custom for Europe, or can they have a SaaS approach in Europe?
Perfect. Let's recall that from America, we when we address Europe, we put in one only word.
Right.
Yes.
But if you live there,
It's a
you
very
know
American thing to do.
there are very different Europes inside Europe, right? So you can
Yes.
be an amazing brand in the UK, but in Germany you are not, and in Spain is a different thing, Italy is a different thing. So it's pretty common. For example,
Yeah.
Nautica, it is a triple way brand in Europe, and in the US is
Yeah.
a mid class high or mid class brand. So at the end of the day, it's not easy. Normally, the old model was to franchise the license of the
Hmm.
brand to rich families from retailers, and
Right.
they would explore the asset in a local way. That was the last maybe 25 years, 30 years of go to market. but that it is in the limit. That model will not recreate the brands anymore. So the brand that wants to thrive in the next 20 years will be the ones that own the experience. So they need to write off a lot of agreements all over the world to be able to control the consumer experience. And
Mm.
for example, let's say a brand from my home country, Havaianas. Havaianas, do you know the flip flops? Jess, Ricky, probably
I
Yeah.
love them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
you love
I have
them.
many,
Perfect.
many pairs. Many, many
She
pairs.
had her
Yeah.
Perfect.
beach hair last
M-
week.
Many
I
pairs,
did.
but you are buying probably from US stores or US online stores.
Yes.
And guess what? In the US, Havaianas might have only 2,000 SKUs. But in my home country, Havaianas has 70,000 SKUs. It's
Wow.
incredible. That's the brand experience, the customization of Havaianas. Everybody has their own touch. And 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 actually Havaianas is losing the ability of creating these experience in the US. Guess
Yeah.
what? Because for the distributor in the US to have the
Mm.
70,000, they need to 70 times more capex to buy the
Wow.
saline.
Sure.
So without a cross-border full integration in between the inventory that you do hold all over the world, allowing anyone to buy from anywhere, you cannot create the experience you need.
Mm.
So we're urging our clients to just embrace the idea that there is no territory boundaries in terms of trade war. And
Yeah,
it is a
we had a whole episode a few weeks back about Section 321. If you missed it, definitely catch it. Um, Having a global pool of inventory, and I think e-commerce in the future is increasingly. I actually don't love the word personalization. I love the ability to do mass customization, especially from one pool of
Hmm.
inventory. Then you can serve all customers the same way, and then you can decide to pull off some of that customization into each market that's more culturally relevant or appropriate.
yeah. I was talking to Ludo. It's an executive from Whirlpool, KitchenAid head executive, and I said, Ludo, you need to link your inventories in the world. And I said, no, 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 it's almost impossible because in the US is one plug, and Europe is another
Yeah,
plug, and Brazil is another plug. And
Yeah.
I say, guess what, Ludo? Apple did. They sell the
right,
plugs
Yeah.
independently,
right,
and they
Yeah.
send three of them in the same package, and people will pay $5 more to have that specific color of KitchenAid that's only sell in Italy. Buyers have more money than time. That's
right.
something that I'm trying to explore a lot. Buyers have more money than time, and they do. So they will go for the long tail. They will go for the curation. No matter where you do have that product in the world, they are willing to wait 7 days, 10 days. Um,
Yep.
um, my wife is buying products. Probably, I would say 80% outside of the United States, and she's based
Mm,
in New York City. So,
mm,
and that's not common, and that's just the starting of the war that is already happening. But the press is talking about the elections and other things, and they are losing the real journalism around the real war that's affecting the families in the United
Yeah.
States. So we and thanks for bringing this topic up. We need to bring this up and say, look, it's a watch out. Say it's a call that we need to come to do for all the American brands and retailers. Say, come on, wake up. Let's fight back.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because with that access to more inventory, is that why marketplaces just continue to be so powerful and it's harder for retailers to compete? So it's like you can't beat them, join them. I've got to go get into a marketplace because at least that's where the buyers are, because ultimately so much selection is
Yes,
there. Organic
the
changing.
the marketplace definitely they recreate the access to the products, right? They show
Yep.
that retailers brands are just a pass through for the credibility of the product brands itself. But my bet is that the marketplaces is start to flat in terms of
mm,
market
Hmm.
penetration. Look what happened with Nike after they drop Amazon. Everybody say, "Oh, that's a big mistake," and actually they just crushed Adidas that keep their products in Nike in Amazon. The reason is People are willing to pay. They have more money than time. So if you create brand experience, they will pay for it, and your profitability will be double. So what is Tesla? It's nothing related to digital commerce. Tesla, it is an amazing brand with a very cost efficient manufacturing. They do have 2 times more margin than Ford and BMW. So when BMW
Right.
launch a new model, Tesla just drop 10 points their
Yep.
cars and they kill the margin of BMW. So brand at the end of the day is the ability of making profitable business. So the retailers, by integrating inventory all over the world, if they own or if it is going to be in the distributor or in stores or in franchisees, doesn't matter. But if a brand can integrate the inventory in the world and make it available to the world, they will at least minimize the cash necessity to finance the inventory in a 30%. In a 30% less cash necessity, we are talking right now in a 2% bottom line. 2% bottom line, as we spoke before, it might
It's
be
huge.
40% of the profitability.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
It's
and people are thinking, why should I do it? Like the executives in America, in Europe, they didn't push the red button yet, and I believe they need. So there is a emergency call to be pushed. You saw, for example, Bed Bath and Beyond. You saw like many others, not
yeah.
not ending well. The reason is that the org charts are too heavy. They
Oh,
are
Right.
just too heavy.
Yeah. And
So
Target, I think Target in their earnings, they just recently had all sorts of issues because their pricing is out of step. The organization is not moving fast enough. Look, I think you're sounding a warning bell for retailers around the world. Own your experience. I'm trying to like come up with the takeaways for everyone here. One, inventory, customizable, global to your consumers, owning the experience. Don't outsource your experience. If you outsource your experience, you outsource your brand.
last message on this, on my academic kind of life. As you mentioned, I am a teacher at AICON. It's an institute inside Moller Center, Churchill College, Cambridge University. um, I am writing a book called Concierge Commerce.
Mm,
That's the first time I speak publicly about the book, so it's
oh, we're breaking news here.
breaking news. You need to have the
exclusive.
Look
breaking
at the
news.
Watson weekend.
And that becomes also a public commitment, right? Because when you start speak public about the
Right.
book, say, "Oh my goodness,"
When you
now
say it, you got to
that's
do
like a
it.
yeah. So
Yep.
what's a concierge commerce? It is the missing link that can increase by a gap the efficiency of the online operation. It is the assets
Mm,
that you do have in your physical stores, the sales reps. So take Jess and Ricky, an example of a one sales rep that works 7 hours a day. With client, they are 1 hour a day. So
mm.
6 hours a day,
Yeah. What are
it's
they
a
doing?
Yep.
OSHO's
Stocking
asset
shelves.
that you already
Yeah.
paid. That
Yeah.
asset can work for your brand in a concierge way, engaging clients, answering online clients, and that's serves for B2B and B2C. So bringing the sales rep to be the or to eliminate the missing link in between the online and offline, the
Mm,
sales rep is what can create that bridge, and that's the concierge. Everybody wants someone to create the search for them. It's much easier to send a message to someone and say, I need that kind of product, please do the survey, and I'm going to wait for 2 3 links and then I'm going to buy for it. I do have these Garmin that I tried to buy. I went to
oh
Amazon,
wow.
and I put like Garmin spearfishing. They gave me 48 items, and I say, I don't have the time for that. And then I message the instructor that I trust and say, please, Peter, what's the model? And I say, oh, the MK2Y, 2I, and I say, oh, fine. And then 2 minutes later, I bought. So the
Right.
concierge commerce can transform the way the efficiency on digital can be reached, and with that, the American brands can reach the world. So that's where my mind is right now, and for the next maybe 5 months.
That's
That's amazing.
amazing. Well, hey, we did have one question, if you don't mind taking one
Please.
from the audience. So there was a question about how VTEX integrates with fulfillment. So do you mind just explaining that a little bit?
No, it's okay. VTEX has two modules. One we call the order routing, and the other one is the inventory management system. So the inventory management system integrates with WMSs and ERPs to bring the data of the inventory to VTEX. So VTEX platform do not
Mm,
manage hot calls in ERPs. That's a mistake of an old way of doing architecture. We just bring the data to VTEX, and we are independent to run in a very high elastic way the demands without touching the legacy systems. And with these inventory management system and order routing, we can integrate with suppliers. We can integrate with
mm,
Sellers Hub. We can integrate to other sourcing of the same SKUs or even added categories for the business area of the brand to serve the customers in a fraction of time they need to do before. So we believe the inventory management system and the order routing is the core of any commerce platform in the world.
Yep, we know part of the supply chain strategy is efficiency, right? And or part of efficiency is supply chain and fulfillment, and how you make all of that work better and harder for you. So I appreciate you taking that question, Mariano. So we're going to go to, I think, the happiness index and talk about what's making consumers happy these days or not happy these days. And I hope that you'll stay on and you'll be dancing with us to show us some of those moves that you guys throw out at VTEX Day. All right, so
First
I'll
of
make
all,
this quick and snappy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and congrats for the show. I love to be here, and
Oh, thank you.
anytime I'm a big fan.
thanks so much. We
Well, hey,
really
we love
appreciate you
having you.
coming on.
Yeah, amazing. So we'll make this pretty quick. We haven't had a happiness index lately, so we wanted to just give you an update of where things are at. For the first time since the past 3 months, we've had a retreat of about 13%. So that was after very little change. It's pretty statistically significant in the fact that it brings sentiment to its lowest level in about 6 months. And a
Mm,
lot of it has to do with what we know we've been talking about on the show. There's worries about inflation, unemployment, and interest rates. They're all moving in the wrong direction as we look ahead. And that's
mm,
from the perspective of the consumers. We've also got some insight of where people are cutting back. We're going to throw up this chart because I think it's pretty interesting. 44%, really nearly 45% of people are saying they're going to be cutting back from food away from the home. So that's
mm.
why we're probably seeing response of Burger King, our friends at Wendy's, our friends at McDonald's, putting out
Starbucks.
some of their deals and discounts. Our Starbucks, yeah, lots of people trying to get and fire up that activity. Clothing and fashion, entertainment, all those in the 30s. Something that's I think also surprising: vacations. So vacations have been one of those pandemic, um, revenge spending activities, but we're starting to see pull back. And you heard that actually in some of the earnings from Expedia Group, where VRBO is starting to soften a little bit. So that's something to watch. People still holding on to their alcohol, so only 16% of that cutting back. So if you get a drink away your worries, I guess. So this will be something that we'll watch over time, and we'll see if we have any other trends or changes. And kind of like the last bit of news, we'll see if this makes consumers happy in the future. If you guys haven't heard, Live Nation's being challenged by the DOJ because nothing sets off Congress to work faster than disappointing the hopes and dreams of their children or grandchildren. So after that Taylor Swift ticket fiasco in 2022, those guys got called to the Hill pretty quickly. They might be taking that front parking spot from Mark Zuckerberg. And really, kind of the story here is that there's a challenge with Live Nation being a monopoly. So, with holding 60% of concert promotions at the venues, 80% of major concert venues ticketing, I think is it time for this group to be broken up? And Rick and Mariano, curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I think the answer is 100% yes. You can't disappoint the Taylor Swift fans. And I think if you're talking about Congress, we're talking about great grandchildren. at this point.
Oh my God, you're so right. We are. We're talking about the legacies, right? So yeah, it'll be interesting. Live Nation's response is like, hey, we're only throwing like 1.4% profit to the bottom line. So that's not a monopoly.
Yeah.
Maybe they're storing that cash somewhere else in the couch cushions.
My take on that, I remember when Microsoft was delivering bottom lines amazingly for 10, 15 years, and the stocks were stuck. And then Satya came and did the write-off for Windows, move Bill Gates, Steve Ballmer out, and recreate the company. And the company was, I believe, 200 billion. Now is 2 trillion plus. So
Yeah.
it's those industries, they need a leapfrog.
Yeah,
I would like to invite your audience to understand a little bit more about Rock and Rio. It's the biggest music festival in the world, and it's happening in Portugal, in Rio, in São Paulo, and it's just another level of experience. And so I invite Live Nations as well to come there and like let's see
Ah,
what's happening in the
see how
world.
it's done.
Yes, let's
yeah.
understand that the source of truth, it's not America anymore for many of the markets we are in.
Yeah.
And that's a brutal message. So we need to reinforce America, our region, to come and go visit the world. I'm going Monday to China. I'm going to Turkey. I'm just go there and see there what's happening. Retail is being reinvented in the world, and we just need to go there and see what's happening.
Yeah. So these are some amazing final words of wisdom. I think, in summary to what Rick said, two add ons: check your org chart at the door. Let's get some of the bloat out. Number one. Number two, get out and see the world and take some other pages out of a playbook, because this one isn't the only one where it's
Yes.
at. So that's amazing, Mariano. I think you have given us so much food for thought heading into this weekend. I found this conversation fascinating. I could probably talk to you for several more hours, because we haven't even gotten to the boating, the spearfishing, and I bet you have
Yeah.
amazing stories out of that. So thank you so much for being here, and we'd love to have you back.
My pleasure.
Thanks so much. We appreciate you having
All
on.
right.
And yeah, I think this is going to kick us into the dance party. And
Yeah, let's see the moves.
Rio, they have nothing on us here on the weekend.
That's right.